If you're growing vegetables at commercial scale, going out and buying seed starting mix, potting soil, it's worth it to you to make than making your own. But for the average home gardener, you could save a ton of money by making your own, and that's what I want to show you today. You might have your own favorite mix that you use, and that's fine, but most potting mix is really just a combination of a few simple ingredients that you can buy at the home center in bulk and then make it for really pennies rather than how much you're going to be spending at the store. What I use is peat moss, vermiculite, and perlite. The reason for each of them is that the peat moss is like an inert medium. Inert isn't the right word I'm looking for. Can't think of it right now. If I think of it, I'll put it on the screen. So it's just something for the seeds to grow in until you can pot them up or plant them out. The vermiculite has certain drainage qualities to it. If you put it in, it'll help the soil drain, kind of like almost like putting sand into it. And you could actually even put sand into your mix. But the vermiculite has an extra benefit, is that it actually absorbs some water and holds it there for the seeds. Not so much that it's going to make them sopping wet, because you obviously don't want that with your seeds, but it does retain some water that can slowly release to the seeds as they're growing. And then the perlite is actually a drainage medium, typically bigger chunks, and they allow the water to drain through. Because again, you don't want the seeds just sitting in water. So I'll just show you how I make my seed starting mix. To get started, I use a simple dollar store colander as my sieve because I want to run my peat moss through the sieve. Peat moss comes with a lot of big chunks, and you want the medium that you're going to be starting your seeds in to be very fine. So I pour the peat moss into the sieve, is shake it out, rub it down, just to get all those big chunks out of the peat moss. And then continue on depending on how much seed starting mix you want to make. Because I'm usually starting only a small amount of seeds at any one time, I don't make a lot. And if I run out while I'm planting seeds, it's nothing to quickly make a new batch up. As you can see, this stuff is really fine, and it's a perfect medium to start your seeds in. The next step I do is I sift my perlite. Yes, I sift my perlite. And that's because unless you get a very fine perlite, you can get some big lumps of perlite in your mix. And for seed starting, I'm not interested in having that in there. I just want small particles to allow the water to drain through without disturbing the seeds. And a big chunk can do that, so I sift my perlite to get a finer mix. Now I mix the perlite into the peat moss, just really well incorporating it so that it's well blended throughout the mix. Now you may have noticed though, I did 2 scoops of the peat moss and just 1 scoop of the perlite, and that's usually the ratio that I use when I'm mixing my seed starting mix up. 2 parts peat moss, 1 part perlite. Now we're on the last part of making our seed starting mix, and that's adding the vermiculite. Now I am sifting the vermiculite here, but normally I wouldn't do that. I had knocked my bag of vermiculite over onto the floor, and I had scooped it up back into the bag, so it has some chunks of stuff from the floor of the greenhouse in there. So that's the only reason I'm sifting it here. But normally, as I said, I wouldn't sift my perlite. And the amount that I use is usually just 1 big handful of vermiculite to the 2 parts peat moss and 1 part perlite. And then just mix it all together really well so that you incorporate the vermiculite into the mix. And what you end up with is this really nice seed starting medium. So this is a really good mix. And I think if you look at this mix and compare it to like a store-bought mix, you're going to find they look really similar. And the amount of money that they charge for the store-bought stuff compared to what you're going to spend per serving here in making your own, it's a world of difference, and you're going to save a lot of money doing it yourself. Now what I'm doing here is adding water to the mix because I like to pre-wet the seed starting mix. And unfortunately, I can't tell you the amount of water that I like to put in. It's really just by eye. You don't want it dripping wet. And you'll see a lot of recommendations that you put enough water in so that when you pick it up and you squeeze it tight, you get like one drop of water out of it, or it's likened to a wet sponge. Yeah, I guess it's like that. And you just learn after doing it enough times about how much water you need in your mix. So I can't give you an exact amount, but I pour in just enough. And if I need a little bit more, I add it. And if I put too much in, which doesn't happen often, but it happens, then I make up some more mix. I might just throw a little bit more peat moss into the mixture to absorb more of the water. But over time, you get good at eyeballing it. Because peat moss is hydrophobic, it sheds water easily. That's why I like to put it in ahead of time, and rather than fill up my trays and then try to put water on it. Because if you do it that way, the water is just going to run all over the place and not into the tray. So I like to pre-wet the mixture and then fill up my seedling trays with it, so that when I put my seeds in and then have to water it, the water is actually absorbed at that point. So that's why I pre-water or pre-wet my seed starting mix. So I've really broken no new ground here. I mean, you've probably seen some of these kinds of videos online. If you haven't, well, this is how I make mine and how I start my seeds. And they always get off to a good start this way using this mix. All right, if you want to see what we were doing in the garden last week, check out this video right here, and then subscribe and hit that notification bell. And that way you'll be able to follow along in the progress on all of our vegetables as we try to grow a supermarket in our own backyard. Okay, thanks for watching.